Alex Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals are a hot topic. Are they for real? What fantasy pieces might push them to the postseason? We're breaking it down on today's show.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fantasy fanatics, we're back in the lab. It's Steele and Flip with everything that you need to know on today's show. We're showing love to the everydayers who make us their first listen every single day. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers. Right now, $5 down and win. You get $250 back in bonus bets. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Oh, we've got bets, my friends. We've got previews and playoff series breakdowns coming all week long. On today's show, we're keeping you up to date. Injuries, Dobson and Tkachuk, and all of the playoff picture situations. I got the apps up ready, Steele. I got the graphics up. But how about these Washington Capitals? Well, I've said a lot about it, so I'm ready to turn it over to you. What's your take now that we are basically all the way through the season? I've said a lot about the Caps. What's your take, fantasy or otherwise, as they still have a shot at the third in the Metro?
Right now, it's out of their hands. They got to hope and pray at this point because of the Philadelphia Flyers somehow beat the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. It's all over. They only need, I believe, one more win, maybe just one more point. It depends on regulation wins as well as the overall record. But if the Philadelphia Flyers win tonight against Carolina, it's completely over. So it's out of their hands. They got to hope and pray to live for tomorrow, which, by the way, it comes down to the last game of the season against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are still in this playoff race as well. So it would be an absolute phenomenal ending to the season. If the Flyers lose tonight, it goes hand in hand tomorrow against Columbus and Washington, and to see who gets that final spot in the Metropolitan Division. I'm so excited to watch the next couple of days of hockey so we can finalize these NHL brackets, see what the first round matchups are going to be. But I feel confident about these Washington Capitals. We've had the kind of back and forth all season long. You weren't so high on them. I still thought they would hang around and be a playoff team. And one of us is going to be right. One of us is going to be wrong. And we'll find out tonight or tomorrow.
And when it comes to the other hot topic with this team, it's obviously Alex Ovechkin and what happens next year. Is it one more year? Because let's be clear, 2+ years or even 2 years, I don't see that making sense for Ovi. Maybe you go at one more kick at the can, given everything he's already accomplished. But I wanted to talk a little bit about what these young pieces could mean next year for the fantasy value of these Washington Capitals, because, yeah, you and I are going to be talking lots about the playoffs, series breakdowns, X factors, predictions, best bets, round by round. You and I are going to break it down. But I still want to dig into some of these fantasy angles. However, before I do that, just to confirm, Flyers will clinch if they win a game. Will clinch a place in the Cup final. And the playoffs. Or if Philly wins versus Carolina in any fashion as we record this, just to confirm that. At the end of the day, Alex Ovechkin is the hot topic. 63 points this year, Steele. 32 goals. And when you take a look at what they might have next year, so you got the Protus brothers. You still have Pierre-Luc Dubois, Connor McMichael, Dylan Strome. How about on the back end? They have brought in players like Jacob Chychrun that have really found their footing in Washington. Cole Hudson. My situation with this team remains, aside from if they make the playoffs, next year, I still think there's a lot of fantasy value here. You've corrected me on that. I was wrong. This team is playoff caliber. So why wouldn't Ovi return? And if he does, with one more kick at it, maybe even more fantasy value to be had with these players. And let's not forget about that tandem in the cage in Logan Thompson. And when healthy, Charlie Lindgren, a pretty solid tandem. So back over to you. This is my final take here. With this Washington Capitals team, at least overall for the playoffs, yeah, they're going to have to get lucky. But if they get in there over Philly, you can't help but feel that it's Ovi and the boys that are a little bit more dangerous than Zegras and the boys in that first round.
I still think there's a ton of value with the Washington Capitals, and I think there will be one more year with Alex Ovechkin. You've kind of seen. I think he would give us a little bit. I think he would give us more notice, the fans in the NHL, if this was going to be his last season. He also waved off the Pittsburgh Penguins after the game when they came over to shake his hands. Like, that's an inclination, an indication that he'll be back for next year. But I think he'll give us somewhat of maybe what Anze Kopitar did, letting us know prior to the season starting that this will be his final season, or even Jonathan Quick, as of today, I believe announced his retirement at the end of the season as well. So I think he would give the fans in the NHL, everyone who's watched him, we've grown up watching him play, he would give us a little bit more respect than what kind of just walking off into the sunset. Again, either way, it's a phenomenal career, but there's tons of value to be had. The top guys, obviously, and Jacob Chychrun, who settled it nicely, like you said. Tom Wilson provides so much fantasy value, even if it's straight up fantasy points. Another 30-goal season from him. He's been tremendous. I think the player to watch out for next season is Ryan Leonard. This kid is so young. He is so talented.
I like it.
40-plus points on the season, 20 goals, 25 assists. He had some penalty minutes with 47 as well. Gets some power play one time, 14 power play points on the season. Shoots the puck a ton. Gets a lot of hits. He's only 20, 21 years old. You bring in Cole Hudson into the mix. You bring in, like you said, others. I think this is going to be a dangerous team. Are they going to be in the hunt for a top 3 spot once again next year? I don't know about that, but I still think they're going to be hovering around the wild card spot and making some noise.
Absolutely. Can't deny also the impact of just the confidence and swagger that could be Alex Ovechkin returning to the lineup. I'm not saying that he doesn't come back. He decides on an early retirement that you just count them out completely. But it's that kind of thing that comes down to it. One more year, the quote from Ovi was, I'll think about it. And I think that's an honest response, but it's one that will hold fantasy implications. So we'll continue to keep you guys updated. We've got injuries coming up, a whole bunch of them after the break, and big-time bets most definitely. But just quickly on that playoff picture, Steele, when I take a look at this season, especially in the Eastern Conference, aside from Vasilevsky, and I'll throw Jeremy Swayman in there too, because I think despite struggles in fantasy up and down, his numbers are actually really good in the postseason. After those two goalies, though, there ain't no household names out here in this Eastern Conference. So this is one of the notes that I had when I was thinking about Eastern Conference matchups. Sabres, Alex Lyon. Montreal Canadiens, the Dobish-Fowler combination. Brandon Bussey, Stu Skinner, Dan Vladar. These are Linus Ullmark. Yeah, these guys have served fantasy value, but these are not household names. And honestly, I think that's going to result in a very interesting first round and some really open series. Don't count out the Bruins. Don't count out the Senators. What I'm trying to say is here, as we set these matchups, whether the Washington Capitals make it or not, other than Vasilevsky, and then you throw in Swayman, this is a bit of a goalie graveyard in terms of household names.
It really is, and we'll let you know who we're feeling when we break down all of the first round matchups, our NHL playoff bracket challenge as well. We'll give you more information on that when we come back after the break, along with these updated injuries going into the playoffs.
You'll need to know them, and it'll help you dominate your league next year. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Rougiette. The NHL playoffs are here. Every shift matters. Every moment is intense. The pressure, it's at its highest. Yeah, the Leafs aren't in there, but still, I'm not bold enough to go with the Canadiens, but I am down here in Niagara. I'm going with these Buffalo Sabres. Performance on the ice, it matters. Off the ice, it matters even more. That's where Rougiette comes in the clutch. Rougiette offers treatments designed to help you get ready and stay ready in the bedroom when it matters most. Still, you know this is serious. It works fast, often in 15 minutes, and could last up to 36 hours. Giddy up, boys. Head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnNHL. Get 15% off your ED treatment. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNHL for 15% off. Rougiette. Performance right now, medicine for men. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. You ever opened your bank account and thought, where did all my cash go? You're not alone. Keep track of subscriptions, spending, and bills. It can get overwhelming, but Rocket Money comes in right there in the clutch, helping you take control of your finances all in one place. It tracks your subscriptions in one spot and helps you cancel the ones that you don't need with just a few taps. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your monthly bills so you can grow your savings. Rocket Money, reach your financials goals faster. Join rocketmoney.com/lockedon right now. That is rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
And once again, thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to the Discord group chat with Flip and I and other listeners of the show. You can tap the link in the show notes or go to lockedonfantasyhockey.supercast.com to check out the Everydayer Club here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you're staying tuned in. We'll continue to drop the information for the upcoming Locked On Fantasy Hockey NHL Playoff Bracket Challenge. We're also going to start an Office Pools League as well for the playoffs as well. We'll continue to get that all set up with the links in our description and on our social media accounts, so you can all join for free entry with some nice prizes out there. Make sure you check that out. Moving forward, once the playoffs are solidified, NHL injury update. Brady Tkachuk and Noah Dobson are the big ones. Let's start with Brady Tkachuk because I don't think it's too serious. He did leave the game against the New York Islanders in that 3-0 win on Saturday, but he is out for today's game or the upcoming game because it's of rest. They're just resting him. He's feeling a lot better is what I'm reading online right now. So it's nothing serious. It was a nothing play as well. I mean, I watched that game. I saw him head down the tunnel. I saw him injured and kind of tweaking at something. It was a nothing play. Right. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but he felt something that wasn't right. And, obviously was preemptive about it. So I don't think it's too serious when it comes to Brady Tkachuk.
And let's be clear. Wherever line you fall on Ottawa Senators, Brady Tkachuk, Team USA, Brady Tkachuk, or just even fantasy hockey, Brady Tkachuk, because I'm sure there's some different polarizing takes there on how you feel about this player. They're going to have to be a lot more of an injury to keep this man out of game one of whoever they face in the first round. So this definitely feels like maintenance, but this is also, I saw out there, Steele, there's still some leagues that grind it out to the final day of the NHL season. So if you are still trying to plug and play your roster, and Brady Tkachuk has been a little bit injured this year, but he's still bringing such elite fantasy value and categorical coverage that you just need to know what's good. But this is better a conversation to quickly talk about the Ottawa Senators because he needs to be in there most definitely, regardless of who they get. I'm looking at this though, Steele. If they get the Carolina Hurricanes in the first round, and I'm an Ottawa Senators fan for a sec, which it takes a lot for me to put my head into, I don't actually hate that matchup. I don't think Carolina Hurricanes fans should be overly confident about the Ottawa Senators coming in there and not at least being able to give them a run for their money. So I look at it twofold. Linus Ullmark in his last 4 games, a .942 save percentage steal. He was a star of the week. That's obviously critical. We'll talk more about that. But when you're talking about Brady Tkachuk, if this just means he even gets a couple of days to kind of mend these wounds and can come out in game one as the dog he wants to be, that's the play here. Be careful for Ottawa in the first round. We've spoken about that as well.
I'm really excited to break down these, first round matchups as well as go back and forth on who we think is going to win, because regardless of you being in that second wildcard spot or the first wildcard spot, you're either going up against most likely the Carolina Hurricanes from the Metro or the Atlantic Division still up. I know if the Buffalo Sabres win, I believe they lock it down if they win against the Chicago Blackhawks, but that's still a tough matchup on the tear they've been going on since December. Montreal, though, they've still got a chance at locking up the Atlantic Division. They are missing a key defenseman, Noah Dobson. He will be reevaluated in the next 2 weeks, missing the remainder of the regular season and potentially the first 4 games of the first round and possibly more. So big loss for them. Montreal brings up David Reinbacher, a former 5th overall draft pick. He got his first National Hockey League game the other day as well. He might have actually recorded a point on Nick Suzuki's goal in that 4-1 win the other day. But Montreal Canadiens, Cole Caufield hits 50 goals. Nick Suzuki hits 100-plus points. He also hits 30 goals on the season. Just tremendous amount of overflowing value with the Montreal Canadiens. And if one of those goaltenders can establish themselves as a true number one goaltender, whether it's Dobson or Fowler, maybe even Montembeault in the mix as well, that's another zero goaltender you might want to look after going into next year's draft.
That take, yes. Montembeault, interestingly enough, Steele, of the three, has the most playoff experience.
Yeah.
Is he playing? Probably not.
And he was good last year until he got injured.
But probably not playing this year without an injury. So that's another intriguing angle to cover when you're talking about a really young team here with the Montreal Canadiens, right? And Noah Dobson himself doesn't have a ton of playoff experience, but he's one of their more experienced players, most definitely, just in terms of service time. And Noah Dobson, yeah, maybe we were kind of hoping he would do something a little bit crazier in terms of fantasy value this year, but he's just super important to the success of this Montreal Canadiens team. And maybe that's an obvious take. And 47 points this year in 80 games doesn't jump off the page. Steele, 34 penalty minutes, 158 shots. He comes with the peripherals as well, 188 blocks. This guy's going to be a beast and very much relied upon next season for fantasy value. And I look at it like this for the Montreal Canadiens. Reinbacher is another really good young player who's going to be in the mix. So let's say you fast forward, because these are all the angles you and I like to cover for knowing what to do with fantasy pieces. Could you not expect this Montreal team to be one of the more active in the offseason, active with what they do at the draft, active in, if you make a decent run this offseason, giving them a couple of pieces? They are of an embarrassment of riches here, and they're looking good at every position. So I got here in my notes, be careful for the Montreal Canadiens, fantasy or otherwise. And yes, a goalie is going to have to establish themselves. And with Noah Dobson out, someone's going to have to step up. We've thrown this term around a lot. You don't want Montreal in the first round, and I'll leave it at that and turn it back to you.
I feel like nobody wants anybody in the first round at this point, because you don't want Montreal, you don't want Tampa Bay, you don't want Ottawa, you don't want the Utah Mammoth. You know what? You probably want Vegas or Edmonton, if I'm being honest right now, because that has a pillow fight of a division. But yeah, Noah Dobson, I think, obviously maybe slightly below the expectations, is obviously just outside the top 100 when it comes to fantasy rankings compared to what he was ranked in the preseason. He was the 80th guy ranked going into the year. He finishes at 115th, obviously, give or take, depending on the last couple of games. Or sorry, he's not even playing, so maybe he will fall a little bit. But Noah Dobson's one of those guys who I think is going to be a depth defenseman for many, many years to come in fantasy hockey leagues. And I still think he's got a lot of value with the Montreal Canadiens, however you want to perceive him compared to Lane Hudson. Obviously, Lane Hudson is having a tremendous year once again, but Noah Dobson is still a great second guy to back him up moving forward.
And when you take a look at what the Olympic schedule impact has done this year, Steele, I believe you threw it out there to me, like when it first started to happen. You were like, how many major fantasy pieces, even before the Olympics, but definitely during and after, have gone down with injury? It's been, you can almost name like 30 players, Draisaitl, Sidney Crosby, all the way through the list. And it's not something we're going to talk about on today's show, but it's just something that I had here in my notes because it's definitely impacted what we've had to do as fantasy GMs.
Yes,
doubt.
It has. Yes, it really has. Yeah, we'll get after it with big time bets, big slate of games, important games, and NHL games that have playoff implications, and you can bet them on FanDuel. But the NBA playoffs are also here, where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get on the action. And here's what we like about it. You can bet just $5 and get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. We're going to be all over the Toronto map Toronto Raptors, Scotty Barnes, BI out there. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to smash that subscribe button, the follow button, help us get to 3,000 subscribers on YouTube. We really do appreciate it. 1 single second to click that subscribe button means the world to Flip and I. We appreciate all that love and support heading into the playoffs. Big, important matchups, Flip, on Tuesday night. Again, we talked about Flyers and Hurricanes. We talked a little bit about what the Nashville Predators have to do. Stammer also hitting 40 goals on the season. You got the Kings as well holding on to their playoff hopes right now. When you look at the matchups moving forward, where are you going first?
And this is a lot dependent on what is happening right now as we record, because a lot of these situations are going to impact how games on Tuesday run. Because if teams clinch or teams fall out of it, Tuesday night's betting board is going to be a bit of a bloodbath. So when I look at Washington Columbus, in one of the few situations where I'd say, regardless of what happens tonight, head to head, the under is 7 of the last 9. So I look at it this way, Steele, especially even the last 3, way under the number. If this is an important game for either team, playoff atmosphere, it's going under. If this is a meaningless game because Washington gets in there, or I don't know the exact statistics, but you know what I'm saying? Columbus gets eliminated, which I do believe is a Monday night option. I even like the under even more. So my first pick here, the head-to-head matches, the trends match. Under 6.5 for Washington and Columbus. Not sexy, Steele, but this isn't a sexy couple of games. You got to be careful and you got to pick your spots. The under 6.5, that one feels good to me.
I like the under 6.5, and I think you're seeing a lot of unders as well over the last couple of games just because of how important they are and how defensively minded these teams are playing in order to secure those 2 points. I really like the under. Washington hit the under for me the other day as well in that 3-0 win. I'm looking at one game and one game alone, so I got a big flip triple dip coming at you right now. So when you look at the games on Monday night, you look at the games Monday night, you got Nashville at home against San Jose, a big 2 points for both clubs, but more so for the Nashville Predators as they sit 1 point back. You also got the Kings playing last night with these bets against the Seattle Kraken. So when I look at that, it's a must 2 points for both of those teams. I think in one big swoop, the Kings are able to eliminate the Jets and Blues from playoff contention if they win against Seattle. So looking at Tuesday's game, I'm looking at the Kings and the Vancouver Canucks. This is a game that you cannot lose. This is a game that will secure you a spot in the playoffs if you obviously won against Seattle last night as well. So number 1 pick, I'm taking the Kings on the puck line against the Vancouver Canucks. They've won 5 out of the last 6 games. 4 of those 5 wins have been by 2 or more goals. Recently, in the last couple of weeks, they won 4-1. So that's the first pick, Kings on the puck line. Second pick, Adrian Kempe, anytime goal. He's been red hot. He had 2 goals against Vancouver a couple of days ago as well. And I'm going to parlay that with the Artemi Panarin 2+ points. He's also been red hot right now down the stretch. They're catching heat at the right time. 6-1-3 in their last 10 games. Current 4-game winning streak. I'm going with the Kings.
I love that you're highlighting the Kings because right here, and you knew I was coming in hot, Steele. It's been a busy afternoon for us both. So I got my picks a little sloppy jalopy over here, but it doesn't hide the fact that I had to take the Kings. And thank you for preambling it and teeing it up so very nicely for me. And then I take a look at the other pick. So let's be clear. Yeah, I like the Kings on the money line. I like the Kings on the puck line. I really do like that under. And then I take a look at this board and I look at the Ducks and Wild, and I know not as near, like no real playoff implications on the line here that I know of other than perhaps positioning. But you look at 9-1-0 from Minnesota in their last 10 against Anaheim. So that looks like a really good spot. But I want to dig deeper because I take a look at Kirill Kaprizov and what I've seen this man do of late. I'm like, maybe this is a good spot for, this team needs him to get hot and go hot in the playoffs. And I think that's going to happen this year. Dallas is going to have a handful. Over to you before I finish this off.
Well, I don't want to burst your bubble, but I don't know what your actual bet is. But if you're talking about Kaprizov or any of this Wild game, I would actually be hesitant for betting on the Wild because they are resting not just Kaprizov, but Eriksson Ek, Boldy, and Quinn Hughes. So they're resting them for today's game against the Blues, so they could be resting them in the final game against the Anaheim Ducks.
They'll be resting them then, but I even still kind of like Minnesota on the money line. I was going to get into Kaprizov's numbers against the Ducks, so thank you so much for raising your hand before we got roasted online, because just for fun, since I was going down that path and I don't want to sound like a complete idiot, 22 games for Kirill Kaprizov against the Anaheim Ducks in his career. He had 25 points. So I was going to cop out and go Kirill Kaprizov anytime point. But let's go with the Wild on the money line for fun. And as my lock of the night, it would have to be Washington at Columbus under that 6.5.
I'm really liking the under 6.5. I'll have to honestly just put that in a single bet because I really do like that one a lot. Those are the bets. Those are the big time bets and the locks of the night. Thank you so much for making Locked On Fantasy Hockey your first listen every single day. Once again, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get all of the latest episodes. Stay tuned for more information about our NHL Playoff Bracket Challenge, our Office Pools Leagues for fantasy hockey. And we'll be back here again tomorrow for another hot episode.
Peace.